everybody. How you going? Good? Yeah. Good lunch? Yeah. What do you think of the Australian summer? It's not too bad. Oh, Australian winter. It's not too bad, is it?
It's wonderful.
Middle of winter, 21 degrees outside. You can't complain too much with that. What's that, about 60 something Fahrenheit? Yeah. Something like that, yeah? About 72, close to that. My name's Vic. I'm the stockman here. Stockman basically is the Australian version of the cowboy. Easiest way to explain it to somebody is stockman. He travels around with the animals. I live on the farm. I'm the only one who lives here. So I get a little property down the back, set on an acre, and it overlooks the Blue Mountains, looking all out the side windows, which is pretty tough. We get a pretty good 52 acres here, which is manageable for one person. But we don't just farm, we do all kinds of things. Farming is a small part of it, but we run these tours every day, sometimes twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day. We do weddings, corporate events, anything you could possibly imagine. This is Belle. Belle, come and say hello. Come and say hello. Say hello. Yeah, go away. That's enough out of you. Go, Vicky. Oh, the poor hard done by dog who's just finished eating 27 pieces of steak. Everyone always wonders why I have the fattest working dog in Australia. This is why. She's a very, very good dog. She's very good at what she does. She is part Australian Kelpie, which we're going to go into later on. But the Australian Kelpie is a dog that was born through necessity, basically. And she's also part Border Collie. You can't see many sheep around at the moment. Oh, you can see a few over there. There's a few scattered over that way. The ones on this side are the pregnant ones, or they have babies. The ones on this side are the ones that we're going to bring in a bit later on using the dog so that we can have a look at them, touch them, feed them, ride them. No riding. We got out of here last time. We had some New Zealand people here and for too long. This here is an Australian stock whip used by the stock man to make a large bang. I think you'll agree it does a very good job of it, correct? Yeah. That large bang is used to move large animals around the farm. If you don't have the dog, then you are responsible for moving the sheep on your own. Now, if I was moving 50 to 100 head of cattle, I would do so by walking towards them, cracking the whip. And guess what? The smart ones, they move. What do you think happens to the not so smart ones? They get whipped, but don't feel too bad. They're a 500 kilogram animal. Feels a lot different between me and you getting whipped or a 500 kilogram animal. Apart from that, people pay big money for that kind of stuff. These cows get it for nothing. Alright, so it's not the end of the world. Right? You don't intentionally set out to hit them, but if they're going to stand still while I'm walking towards them, well, they need to remember, when they hear this noise, walk the other direction. Alright, now if you don't have this, you use the dog. Belle, come in. And what you would do is you just walk along behind them and constantly keep having to tell the dog, speak, speak, speak. That's running, speak, 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 speak. This takes a long time. Look, I may as well crack this. I'm going to stand there doing this all day. Alright, so for cattle we find these are better. Or a healer. Who was the lady who had the blue healer? Yeah? They're good for cattle because they come up behind them and they're constantly biting at their heels. That'll get them moving as well. They're not so great for sheep, but sheep have very soft skin. If you're going to sick a dog on them that's going to bite at their heels, you're going to have a lot of blood all over the place. A lot of scars on these sheep's legs. So it's not great for sheep. Riding along my horse, cracking it at the side, basically gets thrown out the window. There's just too many opportunities for this to happen. Not good. Imagine riding on a horse, which is a flight animal, just to remind you, even though these thoroughbred horses are big, strong and tough, their instant reaction when something scares them is to run away. So if you stop cracking the whip, 50 head of cattle then turn around and think, well, let's go back this way, and the noise has stopped. That horse, he doesn't react too well, it normally tries to get off. Or tries to get you off anyway. The other thing that can happen, horse zigs when it should have zagged, and you get this. No horses like that touching their legs. So what we do is, when we're riding a horse, put it up high, over the top of our head. Now that's called a stockman's crack. So far you have the cattleman and the stockman. Now you've missed the shearing today. So you won't get a chance to see the stockman's crack, thank goodness. Did you see some of that in New Zealand? There's a lot of bending over when it comes to shearing shed. It's normally when it gets its ugly head out. Alright, so we've got the cattleman, the stockman. Now it works at the front and the back. You can mix it up, you can go top to back, you can go top, back. All these weird and wonderful things. You see, what happens is we move animals all day long, but what happens when it gets dark? We don't turn around and go back. The largest farm in Australia is 7 times the largest farm in Texas, and it is the same size as Belgium. It is the 3rd largest farm in the world. It is the largest privately owned farm. Number 1 and 2, 1 is 20 million acres, and number 2 is 18 million acres. And they are owned by the Chinese government. And they used all their dairy cows, they put them there. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 are located in Australia. So when it gets dark, you don't turn around and go home, you camp out for the night, and that's when the stock whips come out. It's when everyone tries to entertain each other, because the phones don't work, there's no Wi-Fi, no TV. This is basically your only form of entertainment. So it's not unusual. You might see some practicing of the swing. You might see the helicopter. Just have to be careful with that one. Too fast and take off again. You might see them used for protection. Hold on to that for me for a second.
I'm the wrong person for you.
The old rubber snake trick.
No, you don't even have. You don't want to see that.
They tell you much about snakes.
No.
Nothing.
No.
Oh, well, there you go. 7 of the top 10 deadliest snakes in the world live in Australia. 4 out of the top 5 deadliest snakes in the world live in New South Wales. So the old stockmen, they didn't like to used to take their chances. You see, they'd be walking along, pushing their cattle. They would come across a snake. Now, it's like sometimes we just didn't really try when it came to naming things. Either that or we just ran out of names. This snake is called the red-bellied black snake. We also have a snake that is completely brown. What do you think we call that snake? The brown snake. We also have a brown snake which is larger than the other brown snakes, so we call that a king brown snake. It's like sometimes they just gave up. They're just like, yeah, whatever. So you see the red-bellied black snake laying on the ground. 40 years ago, we wouldn't do that today, of course. Walking along, pushing your cattle, you'd come across the snake, 1, 2, 3, and you would snap it straight in half using the end of the whip. Alright, now because you're dealing with some of the deadliest snakes in the world, you wouldn't take your chances and you would... It's either dead or extremely angry. So if that doesn't work, then your only option is this. And run as fast as you can possibly run. 85% of all people who died last year from snake bites died because they were trying to kill the snake. Leave them alone and you're okay. We have people who will come and remove things from your house. It only costs $70 to have this done. I would much rather pay somebody else $70 to get the snake out than me go in there and try and cut it up with a shovel. Much safer to walk away and leave them alone. Right, 2-handed tracking. Makes a lot of noise, but There's absolutely no point to it whatsoever. There is never a time in your life that will call upon you to walk around the farm cracking 2 whips at the same time. The only time you would ever do it is to show everybody that you know how. Ta-da! It works at the front and the back. It works side to side. This one is known as the hospital. Let's see if you can have a guess as to why.